Warning. This program contains frank and mature discussions intended to educate and advocate on the subjects of sexuality, sex, and gender and body positivity. Due to the nature of the topics being discussed, this may include subject matter and language that some may find offensive. This program is intended for adults only. If you are under the age of 18, if such material offends you, or if it is illegal to view such material in your community, please exit now.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.
Welcome to the Brown Chicken Brown Cow Show. This is Laura, and I'm here with everyone's favorite host, Monkey.
Hey, that might be me.
Maybe.
Awesome.
And we are here for our month of spirituality.
This is our second podcast on spirituality this month.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, if you didn't catch the first one, go back to the podcast, look it up, subscribe, do all that stuff, because you'll be my friend if you do. If you don't, you can still be my friend. I just might not talk to you as much.
I feel like that's the correct response. That is awkward giggling.
Yeah, well, just give me the look. Today on this episode, we have Drake Bear Stephan with us.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. He's the author of Soul Sex, The Alchemy of Gender Sexuality, a guide for identity fluidity in the 21st century.
I like the fact that it's in the 21st century, too.
Why? But I'd like to know about gender fluidity in the 22nd century, so I can be prepared.
Forward? Well, maybe Drake will have a point of view on that, and through the future we'll bring that up.
Yeah.
See where we might be going with that. That would be a great question. All right, let's get started with Drake Bear Stephan. Drake, talk to me. What is? Introduce yourself, and let's learn a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so I am a hypnotherapist. I specialize in past life work, and also I am a Shamanic Energy Medicine Practitioner, and so I come from a pagan shamanic belief structure, and we're going to talk a little bit about the concepts of that in relationship to gender and sexuality today.
Nice.
Awesome. So just for our folks at home, can we kind of identify what a transpersonal hypnotherapist is?
Transpersonal hypnotherapist deals with spiritual concepts such as past lives, between life work, so the spiritual aspect of a soul, whereas a hypnotherapist that doesn't strictly work with transpersonal stuff would also do things like quitting smoking, losing weight, any other issues that a person might want to work with.
So it's really dealing with like your spiritual wellness.
Absolutely, and
Gotcha.
that's how it overlaps with shamanism.
All right, cool. I think you also had in your bio that you're a Reiki master.
Correct, I am, and to me, Reiki is a part of energy medicine, a very big, important part, and so it is a transmission of energy for the wellness of the recipient.
Awesome.
You want to maybe share with us a little bit, a little history of your transgender, transsexual voyage?
Okay, so, well, I actually consider myself to be a four-spirit, if you will. I was born in the body of a female.
Mm-hmm. That's one, right?
Sexually have been with men and women in that form. And then when I was 33, I transitioned to the male body, if you will, and also have been sexually with men and women in that form as well. Okay. So hence the four different spirits.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. So when you're talking about being a four spirit, how would you define that? Because I assume it's not like the same for everybody. You could have potentially different spirits than the one you have, I guess is the question I'm trying to ask. Poorly.
Well, yeah, actually, and maybe four energies would be a more accurate term, because it really is in one soul or one, spiritual being that's running for different sexual gender identities concurrently in a lifetime, which is kind of unusual. And most people choose to come to the planet in one particular gender identity and sexual identity that lasts for the most part throughout a lifetime. And then there are others that choose to, go through the variations and learn all about the spectrum of the masculine and the feminine.
Gotcha. So, how have your transition journeys kind of shaped or been shaped by your spiritual identities in this lifetime?
Well, actually, I think it's almost the reverse of that. I think my spiritual identity emerged from, my very fluid gender identity and sexuality. And from that, it was, I learned about shamanism, that many shamans and actually many tribes and cultures around the world have third gender or two-spirit people who were transgender and gay, and quite often they were the medicine people of their culture. And that's how I really came to shamanism myself.
Okay. Let's see here. It sounds like you've taken quite a spiritual voyage of discovery, because through the book that we'll get to in a moment, you really do explore some of these aspects. Can you share a little bit about, like, for example, your shamanic history?
Shamanic history?
Yes.
Okay, so I think at age 50, and I actually hate to admit that, but at age 50, it was like stepping through a spiritual portal. It was like all of a sudden I was very interested in metaphysics and, spiritual concepts. And I think it's a general progression that's natural for a lot of people. You spend the first half of your life like creating and manifesting what you want in the material world, your career, your family, or whatever you're working on. And then you hit this point where, you're like, end of life isn't that far away, and maybe I need to be like looking at spiritual concepts, and you realize there's even pieces of things missing in your daily life. And so to me, the spiritual journey really fulfilled me and filled in those places.
Nice.
So let's jump into your book a little bit. So it's sort of about you start out with your kind of transitioning experience, and your kind of spirituality, and then you kind of dive into a more general overview. Can you kind of take us through your book? The prologue is called "A True Story of a Boy Named Sue." Can you talk a bit to that? In that story?
Well, yeah, that was my autobiographies, quote unquote. It was the story of my life without incriminating anybody else that I knew, such as my family.
Right.
and so it's written in a very different style, if you will, than an autobiography.
Right.
And really, the other thing that sets it apart from all other trans autobiographies is it doesn't say I was born in the wrong body. What it's saying is I chose this body, I chose this journey for my soul's growth. And that is the bottom line takeaway from the book, is that we set up the scenario, we create the identity that's best going to work for our soul's growth in this lifetime. And so the book starts off at the physical level of what is sex and what is gender, and then it moves to the social and emotional level, and then it ends on all of the spiritual aspects of what does that mean.
So can we talk a bit for a second, just for some of our viewers that might not have a lot of experience in this realm, when we're talking about sex versus gender, what's the real difference there?
Well, when I talk about gender, that gender is an identity thing, and that's a concept in our consciousness of what we identify as. And sex is that physical body type that we're born into. So when a person is born, they can be identified as a male body, a female body, or intersex. So there's a lot of babies that are born in that are ambiguous or both. And so that's what is called intersex. So gender identity kind of develops over the first 6 or 7 years of life, and that's our consciousness. So to me, consciousness really is outside of the body, outside of the brain, and it's related to our soul and our higher self that's residing in the spiritual world. So we pick a specific balance of energy that we're going to hold when we come. It's called the energy body, when our soul attaches to a physical body. And this may sound like really woo-woo stuff, but it is based on very much on facts, and it's based on a whole history of people who have regressed people to the afterlife, to the between lives, to past lives, and these stories track from person to person to person. So that's kind of where I've developed this body of knowledge that I'm talking about. And of course, I invite anyone to take, and go further with the concepts, or to just leave them on the table if they don't fit. So just throwing that out.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I do have a question, because you kind of address some things about your own voyage, and then other people have a different idea of what they mean by taking the transition. So you kind of alluded to you didn't feel like you were in the wrong body, and that is fine, because that is a choice still to drive your own life. So what do you where's your belief on the biology of gender and sexual identity then, like between genetics and nurturing?
So sort of the nurture versus nature,
exactly,
never-ending argument.
Right, and I do talk about that in the book, and I believe that a person is a product really of three energies, right? There's the biological, or nature, if you will. So we're products of our hormones, and to a huge degree, because I've experienced both. We are also products of our environment, our programming, our nurturing by society and our families. That's a very strong energy. But I also believe in the third energy, which is the spiritual aspect, that our soul remembers past lives. Our soul has a personality, it has an agenda, it has a purpose, and that we may not consciously be aware of it, but that is an energy that's definitely driving us. And so, I made the comment that many trans people believe they were born in the wrong body. And to me, that means that they are more or less accepting that they are a victim, until they take that step to own it and transition. Whereas my viewpoint is, I was never a victim, because I wanted to experience the female body. I wanted to experience the transition. And I have no bigger picture, no better picture of what it's like to be different gender identities than having done it in one lifetime.
Wow. Yeah, it's some fantastic points there. Let's take a real quick break to hear something from our sponsors, see if the wonderful people in the production booth over there are willing to listen to me, or just ignore me. They're ignoring me. Hi guys, this is Sean Monkey McAnee, Monkey for short. You know what? If you're in town here in Sacramento, or if you're anywhere, you need to check out Midtown Moxies. They are a Sacramento burlesque troupe that is blowing my doors off. They are amazing. Generally, they have 2 shows a month. One called the Midtown Moxies and one called Moxie Crush. You need to go to midtownmoxies.com or find them on Facebook. They are amazing. They're beautiful. They're funny as hell. Trust me, I wouldn't be advertising with them if I didn't believe in them. They are freaking fantastic. Enough said. Go to midtownmoxies.com.
And we're back here, and we're talking to Drake Bear Stephan. And we were getting into some interesting discussions about transgender and spirituality.
Right.
Did you have any other questions, Monkey?
Along that line, well, kind of. I mean, there was another section of your book that really intrigued me, and because it's more along the lines of sociology and cultures and stuff like that. So, the idea of the two-spirit and the third gender cultures that are out there.
Correct. So I would say many, if not most, cultures have that. Either a two-spirit. Two-spirit is really a Native American concept, and the idea is that there's the two spirits of the male and the female that are running within an individual, and it's a very spiritual place to be. So it's not just like any gay person is considered a two-spirit. It has a spiritual responsibility with it. A third gender person exists in a lot of other cultures, such as India, Hiras. There's Katois in Thailand. So there's all of these cultures that have their own terms for third gender. And also third gender goes way back to the beginning of time when the goddess was the deities that we worshipped. And there were two spirits and third gender type people who were priestesses or priests to the goddess. So they've existed forever. They're just not well known. So it's not publicized. And, with a lot of the monotheistic religions that have come into being, they put down this concept of the third gender. And they think it's a sin. They think it's against the Bible or the Torah, the teachings, So a lot of it's been kind of shoved under the carpet, if you will. Native Americans aren't open right now about accepting two spirits because, of the Christian influence in this country. So if you do the research, and there's many books written on this whole concept, it's always existed. And the other really interesting thing about it is that it throws out that idea that there's a whole spectrum of identity. There's not just a binary system of you're either 100% male or you're 100% female. Because if you believe that, it can make you crazy. Because we have both aspects within us. The soul, when it's not incarnated, has no gender identity. So it has all characteristics. And when we come to the planet and we just try to start separating out these things as either or, it marginalizes a whole lot of people. And so the whole idea of third gender and allowing that to come in is that there's a spectrum and that no one becomes marginalized.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. And I actually feel like that's something that we're struggling with as more of a society. So it's nice to hear that, there are some spiritualities, or I don't want to necessarily call them religions, although that's kind of what they are, have talked about and considered and kind of incorporated into their belief systems early on. So in that regard, I think we've talked a little bit, we at Brown Chicken Brown Cow are kind of the sex positive, gender positive, body positive podcast. So how do you define some of those terms like gender positive and body positive and sex positive in terms of like your shamanism?
Well, I would say that, I'll present it in this way, is that there are shamanic techniques that can be used to increase the positivity of your identity. So if there are, let's say the great example is a soul retrieval. So in situations where a person's growing up and they may be a little out of the mainstream identity-wise, a lot of shame can occur, traumatic situations can occur. And in those moments, pieces of our souls, we put them away for safekeeping, and they become separated from us. So we're feeling disassociated, we're feeling not totally whole or ourselves or whatever. And a shamanic practitioner can journey out and bring those pieces back and help the person integrate them into their lives. So in a way, reducing shame, getting out of the victim mode, and really empowering yourself with your identity. Because to me, your identity is your self-empowerment. The stronger you feel about who you are and you own it, the more empowered you are.
So that's kind of a thing where by kind of leading towards shamanism, you can kind of heal some of those rifts that trying to meet society's expectations of you might cause.
Absolutely true. Yes.
Hey, you caught on.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm just learning. So if I sound really silly, I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same
silly
page.
at all.
Well, you have stars on your top, so it will give you another gold star. How about that?
Yes.
Yes, more stars.
Is it bad that I didn't realize I had stars on my top?
No. Here's a question for you. How do you see shamanism intersecting with other spiritual paths?
Well, okay, so I just want to be clear about this, that shamanism is not a religion. There's no, deities. There are no rules. There's no book of knowledge or wisdom. It's a concept that's been with us since the beginning of time. And that concept is, one, the principle of energy, that everything is energy, everything is related, we're all one. And so shamanism really is a practice of working with the energy, of getting it to be healthy and optimal, creating energy for a person that really serves them. And so it's really not, even though it seems like a very spiritual practice, which it is, and it works on spiritual dis-ease, if you will, like aspects of the soul that aren't working to its optimum, then in that respect, it is spiritual, but it's not a religion.
Okay.
I had a question.
Oh,
and
really?
It just
sure?
slipped away from my brain, and it's going to come back any second.
It's floating around her brain pan.
No, because I was listening to what Drake was saying, and I kind of had a question prepared, and it was related, and then I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's... So shamanism is almost not like a religion, but a kind of way of life. I don't know how to describe it better. I think you did a good job. I'm still wrapping my head around that.
Well, while you're ripping your head, you're ripping?
Rapping.
Well,
I can't talk good.
Well,
so.
and I just washed my lips, and I can't do a thing with them. So
You're not supposed to do that while we're on the air.
I know. I'm sorry.
We have 2 rules: don't wash your lips while we're on the air, and don't cough.
And I've
done
broken
both
both of them today. Yeah, that's nice. So let's transition just a little bit here. See what I did there?
I've remembered.
Oh.
I've remembered my question, and
All
it's
right,
related.
I'll wait.
Sorry.
It's related. I can put mine this
So,
back.
if someone's curious and they want to learn more about shamanism and kind of sexuality and that sort of stuff, what resources are there out there? I mean, obviously you talk about this a good amount in your book, but are there other resources you would recommend to people?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of different resources for learning more about shamanism, and I guess in particular, your audience would be interested in the intersection, with gender and sexuality. Lots of big words here. So there are books, there are meetups, there is training or classes, workshops. There's really a long list of resources, and you can actually Google it on the internet. Things will pop up, but I would invite anyone who's very interested, who's listening, to contact me, and I'll create a list for them of resources, or kind of steer you in the right direction of where you can go. And by the way, I just want to circle back because I realized I didn't totally answer the question that you had asked about, Monkey, and that is the intersectionality of shamanism with different practices. And what I had started out to say was shamanism not being a religion can overlay any other practice, if you will. So it's something that you can combine or overlay with your beliefs. It's very workable.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I was trying to see, because it does seem like I said, it's a way of accepting yourself and moving through a lot of things, and accepting what you can and trying to let go of the things you can't, as well as lay over the top of that any other type of religious ideology. They do parallel in some aspects, but at the same time, being able to parse out the ideas that really do work for you in your life. So, yeah, that's where I was going with it. So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have a question. What advice do you have for people who maybe are curious about shamanism and transgender ideology, or going through a transgender process with their spiritual growth?
Advice. So, well, one thing is to find like-minded people. And I think finding a tribe or a community or a peer group or something like that you're open to express and explore your feelings. I'll just throw this out as an example. I'm working with a client right now who had been married for years, and now, after the death of their loved one, is saying, after all this time, I think I really was gay. And so it's like I put them in touch with some groups, social groups, where they can explore that with people who are going through the same type of thing. And so that person is now, ecstatic, not necessarily exploring the sexual aspect of it, but the social concepts and what does that mean to them. So that would be my biggest suggestion. Mm-hmm. And also, I realize a lot of people aren't readers like I am. I read prolifically, but, YouTube is a great resource if you like to watch videos. So if you do, search on a term that you're interested in, there's going to be all types of videos on there that are going to light up your fire, if you will. So that's another great resource just to keep your feet wet.
Yeah, no, that actually sounds great. I always think whenever I need to do anything in my life, hey, I should YouTube that so I can figure out how to do it by myself. That's actually a really good point that extends to kind of spirituality and other things you can look at. I hadn't really thought about that. So if you could kind of look back, sticking to the topic of advice, and talk to your younger self, having now gone through all of this journey and having this experience, what sort of advice or what would you tell yourself back, like, say, when you were a teenager or when you were in your young 20s, kind of still trying to figure yourself out?
Wow, that's a good question.
Sorry, it's really broad, too.
Tell us everything and all the times.
Well, and if you want, we can kind of take a brief break and have our sponsors talk, and you can follow up on that.
Okay.
Give you a few moments to think.
And cue the game show music. That'd be great.
Dun, 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 dun.
Is that your game show music?
It is today.
And the jazz hands that go along with that.
Oh, yeah. The jazz hands were pretty integral to that.
Yeah. So we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. And Laura gets done with her game show music and dancing.
It's moved on to a jig now, so just be prepared.
Oh, dear. I'm not the one being silly. Go. Hi guys, it's Sean Monkey Mackany from Brown Chicken Brown Cow. You know what I suggest? I suggest you go to luckybloke.com. Why? Because you can order your condoms online every month. Let's say you have multiple lovers that require different types of condoms, small, medium, large. You don't have to go to the store and buy all these different condoms. You can actually order them from Lucky Bloke. Let's say you have a lover that's latex sensitive. You can get latex-free condoms in that same package with everything else. It is a fantastic program. It is a monthly service. You need to go to luckybloke.com and tell them Monkey sent you. Trust me, they know who I am.
And we're back.
I'm Monkey. You are?
I'm still Laura, I think, unless I changed during the break. But
No, you didn't
Nope.
change. You still have the same
Same.
top on there with the stars.
whew, didn't get any more stars. No
more
second
star-
unicorn.
Just the gold one on your shoulder I put there.
So Drake, we were talking about advice you would give your younger self, or what you would say. Any thoughts?
Well, actually, there's two, and I guess the thing that really comes to the surface when I look back at my younger self, who you'd never know that I'm the same person today, is that there was so much pain, and that pain really was driving my direction or my way of life, and so it was like I didn't yet have that spiritual view of my soul and wasn't connected enough, if you will. And so I think I would tell myself two things. One, develop a daily spiritual practice. Get an education in metaphysics and find something that you just resonate with and that can support you in your journey. The other thing is that I always said, why did I wait so long to transition? Why, I wasted all that time.
Yeah.
And I hear that so often of people coming out or transitioning. Why did I wait? Some people don't transition until their 60s or 70s. And so what I say to that is, we do it when the moment is right. We're never behind schedule. We needed to experience everything that we experienced until that point of transition or coming out. We need to grow into that place. And so be patient. Just be patient and be there now, because it will happen right at the time that it's supposed to.
That's kind of funny. I feel like that's a lot of the same advice. Like, if I could go back and tell my younger self things, just about life in general, I feel like that's really applicable. So I kind of have a follow-up question related to something you said there. So you kind of talked a little bit about, which I feel like is very valid in like every decision or major change we make in our life. Like, you're going to be ready when you're ready, and don't rush into things. And I'm always of the opinion that I will know when I am ready for something, which sounds insane, and I could never tell you how I know, but I will know when the moment is right, and then I will do whatever that major change is, and it will be fine. So how did you know you were ready to transition once you made that step?
Well, for me, it was, and I think it's like this for a lot of trans people, is you get to the point where you can't not do it. You know that if you don't do it, you will die. And so it comes to that desperate point. It was like I had to be willing to give up my family, give up my job, give up my loved significant other, right? I felt that I would lose all of those things. And losing those was still better than the alternative. And so I decided to go through the transition, I just said, I'm just going to start and see what it's like. I'm just going to have a shot at testosterone, see what it's like. Well, I've never stopped since I started that first shot. And so I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose my family. I didn't lose my job. I had the same corporate job for 38 years.
Wow.
And in fact, my career got better. And so it's like all of these fears that we built up, they just dissipated. And so you just get to that point where you have to do it. You have to be true to yourself. And I think that's the growth. The growth is realizing I need to be authentic. I need to be true to myself. I need to own my identity, no matter what the consequences. And that empowers you. And all of a sudden your energy shifts. And it's like people are more attracted to you because you're happier with who you are.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's a confidence thing. So you kind of talked about like really being maybe afraid or concerned that you were going to lose a lot of those really important things in your life. So I guess as another follow-up, since I'm just going to keep asking you follow-up questions to the same thing, what did you gain once you did transition, either spiritually or emotionally? Obviously, I know you talked about, things did get better kind of at your job and you had some better opportunities, and you go through that a bit in your book. But, what else did you gain?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I gained is this feeling of growth and this contact with my soul and the gift of the spiritual outlook. I spent a lot of years right after my transition as basically a hermit. I call myself a suburban hermit because I went to work, but I spent all of the weekends in the mountains, and so it's kind of like a time of reflection, and that's what a hermit does. It just, you reflect, you study, you grow in strength, and you're working on your inner self. And then at some point you begin to emerge, and then you can share that inner self with others. So you bring kind of a light to the world. And so I feel like that was all the growth time I needed to create things that were going to go into the book and all of that. So my path, though, this is my unique path, and I would say that many, many others who are going to transition or are in that phase or, coming out, whatever you're dealing with, your journey may be very, very different. My total journey has been so positive, and I've just grown so much as a person that, like I said, I look back at myself and I can't even believe that I'm the same person.
Yeah.
So it's been a very rich, very rewarding, and I would never give up this lifetime for something else. It's just been amazing to me, and so I'm quite happy with it, as you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't tell. I'm rigorously nodding to for the last 10 minutes. I've been getting a serious neck workout.
Oh, nodding on podcasts.
So a lot of what you've said has resonated with me. So.
Now, it sounds like, within shamanism, you're looking to grow as spiritually and as a person on a daily basis, and that could probably bring in more questions and more ideas that may come up on a daily basis for you. I know I have so many things in my life I'm constantly having to go out and research. But for you, since you wrote Safe Sex, have you...
Soul sex.
Soul sex. Oh, safe sex. I'm sorry. Soul sex. Why am I doing that?
Well, your mind is in the right place.
There you go.
You at least had the sex part right. That's at least 50% of it.
Oh, geez, embarrassed. And there I go blushing. Okay. Oh, yeah. Madam's keeping track. Okay. Keeping track of my blushes, by the way, if you didn't know.
We keep track of Monkey's blushes because he blushes a lot.
Yeah,
he hasn't been doing too much blushing today.
Not today.
Very odd.
I can talk about sex, but as soon as I either mess up or somebody points sex at me and the madam starts flirting with me, I blush rather quickly. But back to my question. Through your voyage and since you've written Soul Sex, are there new questions or new ideas that may emerge in a second version of the book?
Well, actually, yes. It's like when I decided to write, all of a sudden it was like all of this information kept coming to me that was outside of what I thought I was going to write.
Right.
So the book kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point I had to say, you know what, stop.
Stop somewhere. It's going to be too big.
But it never turned off the faucet. So to me, that's spirit. The spirits are like sending information, share this, share this, share this. And so then... I have been collecting information for a sequel, if you will, and I was thinking it might be in the form of like a workbook, so a soul sex workbook,
Nice.
Like little quizzes and little games and things that you can do to like identify who are you, what is your balance of male female energy. I have this thing called a gender identity quotient thing where we guess or we determine how much masculine energy do you hold? How much feminine energy do you hold? What is masculine energy? What is feminine energy?
Right.
Okay. So some definitions are going to be different across cultures, but it's like we recognize that energy when we see other people. And when the energy that we perceive doesn't fit the physical body, then we get all judgmental, right? So we see a male body with feminine characteristics, that's not acceptable. And vice versa for me. I was always in trouble in a female body because I had very masculine energy. That energy is sacred to the soul. And that's why it's easier to change the physical body to match your energy than to change energy.
Yeah, see, I've got a very goofy energy, but I'm not ready to transition into a cartoon.
We're waiting for that moment.
Goofy energy, you own that.
So other than this kind of potential sequel in the future, what are you up to now? Like, anything? Should we expect anything exciting and new from you?
Well, actually, my book that I'm really working on right now is called Wisdom to Die For, and it's going to be a modern Book of the Dead. So it's going to talk about what are those things that we should know as we die. The Tibetans had a Book of the Dead that was just amazing, and I feel we don't have anything comparable for our time and place and our beliefs. And it's a huge undertaking, I know. Probably my soul needs to mature even more to do this, but this is the project I'm working.
Awesome. It's got a great name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Well, do you want to take a real quick break and come back? And we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. We'll be back right after a few moments with sponsors. This has been Monkey.
I'm Laura. And we're here
with
Drake Bear Stephan.
Woohoo! Hi guys, this is Sean Monkey McEnany, Monkey for short. What you need to know now is that brown chicken, brown cow needs your love. It needs your help, and personally, we could use your money. But short of that, what you need to do is go out and like our Facebook page. Number 2, give us a review on whatever podcast ability you have. Go out to iTunes, go out to Google Play, give us a good review because that helps. Number 3, subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast because that helps our numbers, helps us with advertisers, helps us with everything. It makes us look good, actually. And number 4, and this is very important, come close to the speaker. It's fantastic. You can go out to Patreon and support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/BCBC-Podcast. You can support us at whatever level of support you think you can manage. I don't want you to give us money if you can't do it, but I want you to give us some money and we'll give you back some love as well. We'll give you back some stuff. We'll talk about you on the radio. Who knows? But in the end, supporting us helps keep the show going. Subscribing to the podcast gives us better numbers. And liking our Facebook page, guess what? You always know when the show's coming. So, this is Monkey. You're you. We are together. Cuckoo-cuckoo. Fantastic. See you on the next show. And we're back. I know we just put you on the spot there. Thank you for playing with us because,
It gets boring when we just play with ourselves.
Whoa, no it doesn't.
Uh-oh, Monkey's blushing now.
Yes. See, you've caught on. See?
Is it right? I think your blushes are starting to become contagious. That's no good. You keep them over there. I don't want them.
The contagious blushing monkey.
Yeah.
Luckily that's not like Ebola or anything.
It sounded like it for a minute there.
Oh dear,
I was a little
okay.
concerned.
Is there a shot for blushing? Yeah, it's called Botox. It doesn't really work, but
I'm pretty sure there's not a shot for blushing since I've blushed in several work meetings and it is the worst. You're like, thank you for the compliment. Allow me to turn into a red balloon now. Just wait, it'll go away.
a red balloon.
Oh, it's bad.
All right. Where
Now you're a red balloon.
On topic,
On
yes.
topic.
Because we derail sometimes here on the show.
So, Drake, I kind of have a, follow-up / wrapping up question. Is there anything you want our audience for the podcast to know?
Wow.
I know. I'm just going to ask you all of the broad questions and allow you to just answer them. No pressure.
What I would put out to listeners is I want you to learn who you are, know who you are, then own it, love it, and then share it with the world.
That's a really solid message.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I feel very centered right now. I don't
Know
have any
yourself,
more
love
questions.
yourself, and share it with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, we have somebody in the audience. He just looked at me like I was a goofball. All right.
It doesn't sound as good when you say it.
When I say
Drake makes it sound really
he
serious.
does make it sound a lot more poetic than I do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so wrapping up, where can people find you? Give
There
us
you
all
go.
of your stats, your web pages, your phone numbers, your classes.
Well, as much as you want to divulge,
okay.
because you never know. Just
Again, that's very open. But what I'll say is, I do teach, and I mentor. I can do one-on-one, or I can do classes, and I customize it to whatever the client or student needs. So if you're interested, let's have a consultation. You can call or text at 925-348-3336, or you can peruse my website. It has tons of information on it. It's drakeenterprises.com. So DrakeinnerPrizes.com. In other words, you have inner prizes, and these are your gifts.
nice. Still a solid name. I'm very impressed at your naming skills, if you were wondering.
Impressed with naming skills.
Yeah, not everybody has them. Sometimes
No.
I'm like, great book.
I
I'm going to call what I just wrote.
I just gave up. Call myself Monkey.
Yeah. Well, I think that about does it for this episode of Brown Chicken, Brown Cow.
Brown chicken, brown chow.
Yes. Since we can't talk anymore. Well, I'm Laura, and
This is Monkey. Well, still have more words to say, fortunately.
I apologize. Monkey
Well,
has
no,
words
you've
already.
run out of words. I still have a bunch of words. Fantastical.
No, don't just say words.
Thank you very much for joining the show. Thank you for joining us on the air. We had a great time with you. If you want to get a hold of him, please check the notes in the podcast. And we are pretty much done now.
Yeah, thanks
So-
for the great talk, Drake.
And tune in next week to another fantastic podcast about spirituality and sexuality.
Dun, 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 dun.
So we're still doing the outro music with the dancing?
Uh-huh.
All right.
For information on becoming a sponsor, advertising with us, or becoming a guest on our show, visit us at brownchickenbrowncowshow.com. All material in the show is copyrighted 2017 by the Brown Chicken Brown Cow Show and Podcast and Marry You Creative Solutions. All rights are reserved.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.